destitute. To keep her small family of 2 children together, down from the 10 she had given birth to, John's mother would go a-washing 5 days in the week. Mother's work and a little assistance from the parish kept a roof over the family until John was 7. At this point, though, the parish decided that the 7-year-old would have to earn his own way. John never lived with his family again. He was first dispatched to work for a hemp manufacturer that the parish had found. The placement did not last long. His mistreatment at the hands of his master's wife escalated until she cracked John's skull open with a wooden hemp reel. It was too much even for his lukewarm guardians, and the parish officers lost little time in finding him a new situation. Over the next decade, John moved from one post to the next, choosing his employments so as to keep close to his sister and dear mother. He felt uneasy, as he said, without a friend to tell all my little sorrows close by. The circumstances of this little family were far from ideal, yet the bonds between mother and son were clearly strong and meaningful. Despite living apart since the age of 7, John found the death of his mother a shattering blow. Plunged into a sorrow he could not articulate, he described himself simply as very unsettled and of a roving dispassion, unable for a number of years to settle in one place or one position for long. Perhaps these traumatic experiences help explain the unsatisfactory relationships he entered soon after. His first was with Anne, a fellow servant at Oxborough, an excellent cook, but a woman with a hot and violent temper. She was a very stout person and 10 years older than myself. Within little more than a year, Anne found herself in a delicate condition. A wedding was the only solution. The nuptials took place in January 1799, but the marriage was neither long-lived nor successful. As soon as she had a ring on her finger, Anne left their employer's household and headed back to her own family, with John reluctantly following shortly after to work with her father at hedging and ditching, and to live in the family's humble home. He admitted in his notebook that his reception there quickly left him wishing he had followed his master's advice and never married at all. In July, Anne presented John with a son, but in the winter she fell ill. Weeks later she was dead. With her parents unwilling to take care of the child, John was left alone to manage as best he could. He found a nurse to watch the child while he toiled in the fields during the day, but suspected her of neglect. "The feet of my dear child almost rotted up through long hours of confinement to a cradle," he recalled, and when he returned from his day's labour, his son would leap from joy at my appearance. John removed his son to a second nurse, but the child's pitiful life was cut short at 18 months. 2 years had passed since John had married. Both his wife and son had died, and as John laconically observed, he was far from being happy. The seasons rolled by, with John constantly shifting from one employer to the next. In his memoirs, John made a careful note of each of his employments and the petty fallings out that had terminated many, but did not touch again on personal matters until he formed an acquaintance with a young woman while working in Brandon. Though she never intimated as much, John soon suspected his unnamed acquaintance was pregnant. In sharp contrast to the usual desires of unmarried women in her predicament, however, she seemed to care little for John's involvement. When he moved away from Brandon in search of work, she brusquely terminated the relationship. John's suspicions were confirmed months later when she wrote to inform him that she had given birth to his